Chesty, don't lick my elbow.
And if you can you move towards me? Andy, at all? Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That works. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Alright. So. That didn't tell me at all.
What are you doing?
I was going to look at who was in chat.
Okay.
But.
We good to go?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Alrighty.
There might not be anybody watching. No, well, there's one person watching. Okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about books. We're going to talk about our books.
Books!
Do you want to hold up your book?
Yes. This is my book. Please kill me. The Uncensored Oral History of Punk.
I might need to flip the camera around. Please hold.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say please forgive me because my sleep has been weird.
Nope,
and
that
that is not
that
okay.
was the wrong one. Transform. Can I flip?
Like mirror?
Where's that?
I don't know. I'm just asking if that's what you want to do.
That should be what I need to do.
It's fine. It's fine, I
It
promise.
just might be backwards.
Okay.
I don't know where the setting is to change that, actually. Which might be because left, right. You might be able to see it. Yeah, see,
So-
it looks backwards.
He is reading. Just say what you're reading.
The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. Book 2 from Wheel of Time. I'm just going to do a synopsis of books 1 and 2 so far because there's way too much to attempt to explain everything. There's just a lot. There's a lot that happens in book 1, and there's 14
usual,
books.
I will check out about 2 minutes into it because
Well, you know, I mean,
I've tried.
Yes.
I really did try.
I know.
read like 4 pages.
You read the prologue of
I read the
book
prologue,
1, didn't you?
And
Yeah.
I liked it, but it's also just not my cup of tea.
Yeah,
Which is fine. Like
fantasy
I
slash
liked the
sci-fi.
writing. I really enjoyed the prose. I thought he was a great writer.
Stop.
The dogs are barking. Also, I am very tired.
Yes, I'm not very tired, but I got. What time did you call me? 6 o'clock
You
this
did
morning?
get more sleep than me, but it was still super interrupted.
Well, yeah. According to the app for the bed, I only got 5.5 hours of sleep last night.
Nice.
And you didn't get to sleep until this morning, Loki.
Yeah, I went to
Please.
bed at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. You got home
And I
at
slept
like
until 12:30.
you got home at like 7:15, and you were asleep by 7:30. You were out. You were out. So, what are you gonna do? Work?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Save the free world.
yeah. So yeah, my book series is definitely not your cup of tea. The book you're reading, I would probably enjoy, but I typically stick to fiction. That's just me, though.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I mean, I read fiction and nonfiction, and
Just my type of fiction isn't your type of
this
fiction.
I really, really like because it's all interviews. Like I'll show him, and he can attest to this. Like it's all just it's an interview.
Okay, yeah,
so
talking to the people.
when
yeah.
they say it's the uncensored oral history, like this is just it's people telling stories from
Yeah.
you know the prologue is from. It covers. I gotta find it really quick. Don't mind me. Just some technical difficulties. No, it covers 65 to 68, which is like when punk started.
Right. Okay. How much did you read?
I read the entire prologue.
And
so
no, like how much of the book have you read so far?
Oh, and so I've actually read this book before.
Oh, okay.
Like I loved it because it really does. Like it covers everything. And I mean there's some pictures in here too, if I can
like you were telling me earlier, Andy Warhol is involved in the punk movement.
Yeah, Andy Warhol.
I had no idea about that.
Oh my gosh, like so he's not painted in a great light in these first couple of chapters because there's some feuding going on between him and Lou Reed, who was like the lead singer of the Velvet Underground, and yeah, there's a lot going on, and I mean there's a lot going on in the entire book, but this prologue is just like every couple of lines you're reading something and they're like, well, I was high on heroin, or I was high on, amphetamines, and it's just like,
pick your drug, right?
Yeah, like it was the 60s, they could do whatever they wanted. Bob Dylan is mentioned, which makes me super happy because I love Bob Dylan. So it's
we could have started with a Bob Dylan song, but stupid muting and getting banned and all that jazz.
Fine. If anybody wants to hear Bob Dylan, I will sing him at some point.
Yeah, I mean you can by all means play Bob Dylan songs on your own computer while you're watching this.
Yeah.
So, and I am going to try to highlight this and clip it so that we get the whole thing, so that people can go back and watch it later if they want to. Not planning on doing any sort of like podcast thing or anything like that, because that takes a lot.
I feel
more
like this is more fun because people can see us, like, when you're listening to a podcast, you don't get to see somebody's face light up. Like I see your face light up when you talk about, Wheel of Time and what is this? The Great Hunt.
Yes.
You get to see my face light up when I talk about the fact that, like,
Bob Dylan
is mentioned in this. Like, he's...
And Andy Warhol.
And Andy Warhol and Nico, and I think it's Edie... I'm going to flub her name. Edie... I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
They talk about somebody named Edie, and
actually
the way that they frame women in this book is super interesting because, you know me, I'm not like a super feminist, but women are not playthings.
Yeah, they're
and they very much refer to Nico and Edie in this book as playthings and sleeping their way to the top, and everybody slept with Edie, everybody slept with Nico, and Nico just slept with anybody who could get her to the top, and
ouch. That's rough. Yeah. Okay. Is the entire book that way? Like, or is it just the parts about them?
There are other women mentioned. I mean, eventually I will get to the point where they start talking about the Ramones and they start talking about Joan Jett and people like that. So,
okay.
I don't actually remember how they refer to all of the women, but just reading this prologue, if you're, I don't want to say sensitive because, people have certain sensitivities about certain things and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you don't enjoy reading graphic things about sex and drugs, I would probably recommend you not read this book and just listen to me talk about it, because I can definitely sugarcoat a lot of things.
Well, hence your tweet it was your post earlier about you'll be talking about hard drugs and I'll be talking about wizards, or was essentially what it is, and that's essentially what it is for me. On my side, my book.
Tell me about your book.
So basically, the very condensed version, because if you're not familiar with Wheel of Time, it is 14 books, and none of the books are under 500 pages, as far as I am aware. I believe Fires of Heaven, Book 5, is still the longest book. It is the longest book in the series, and it's over 1,000 pages, but I'm not sure how long it is. But essentially, the thing you have to remember is the main characters the main people in the story are humans. It's not like you have elves and things like that. You have other creatures, but they are all like, you kind of have the thing where in Lord of the Rings, for instance, orcs are descendants of elves that were tortured. That's kind of the same thing you have in this. It all kind of goes back to humans in that aspect. There are only 2 other species that I remember straight up that aren't animals. One is called Ogiers, and they are essentially like giants that are essentially the closest thing to an ent in this world. And then there is the tree. I can't remember his name, but he is essentially a walking ent at the end of the first book. But for the most part, all the characters in the series, Lyle is an Ogier, and he is a main character, in my opinion. But the 3 main characters are all humans. But they all grow up in the same town. They all grow up in the same village. Essentially a backwater village out in the middle of nowhere.
So West Virginia.
Oh my! Essentially, and the only reason that the kingdom that they are part of knows that they are there is because of their taxes. They pay taxes and stuff like that. But they all grow up, and you find they're actually all the same age. They are all within 6 months of each other. At most a year apart, but I think they're all within 6 months of each other in age, and that is important. Your main character is Rand, and he is essentially what you... By the way, this is going to have spoilers if you've never read the books. Sorry. Get on it. They've been out a while. I think he started writing these in the 80s. I don't know when...
Oh.
I don't know when this book came out. I don't know when book 2 came out. I'm not entirely sure.
Full disclosure, if you hear like an errant howl or bark, we have 3 dogs.
Yeah, the book 2 is from 1991.
Okay,
so
book 1 was probably written in the 80s.
Yes, it was probably written in 88, 89. I don't know. I didn't look it up. Not important.
I don't really know a lot of movies from the 80s. I'm just wondering if maybe like there was a theme. I don't know. Like,
not that I
would
know
fit
of.
In. I don't know. The only movies I know from the 80s are like The Breakfast Club.
Right. Well, his books do have a lot of, in my opinion, influence from Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and, you know, the greats of fantasy writing and stuff like that. But he makes his own world. But you find out that Rand, the main character, is this world's equivalent of a male wizard. There are male wizards and there are female witches, wizards. No, because there's a lot of them. However, there's a lot more women than men, because if you're a male wizard, you eventually go crazy because of the powers you have. That plays into things that happen in the later books. But you find out that by the end of book 1, you find out that he is the Dragon Reborn. He is the main character of the entire series. Mm-hmm. Are you coming over here to see me, Boo Boo? Okay. Did you just want to hit the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay. It's got to be the center of attention. But yeah, and his 2 friends is essentially, you know, the 2 guys that he grew up with. Matt, who is, for the most part, Matt doesn't really have any like special abilities, but he ends up with holes in his memory that get filled by the memories of long dead people, and he ends up being a military genius because of it. And he also things that happen to him during the series, he ends up being essentially able to control his own luck. Like, they have a game in the world that's essentially equivalent to craps. He can't lose because he's so lucky, and he knows that he's so lucky, so he only gambles for a short amount of time before people get pissed off and try to kill him.
That actually sounds like that movie we watched. What was the name of that movie with the prince? And he was charming.
Oh
to
yeah,
everybody.
Charming.
Oh, is that the name?
Yeah.
Okay, it was called Charming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And he can't control.
Sidebar.
He can't control. What happens when the women see him, right? Well, that's essentially what you have with Matt. He can't control. Like, he can't control his luck, but he is extremely lucky. And then you have Perrin, who is my personal favorite character, because he is the one who can talk to wolves.
Gotcha.
And he is also a dream walker, which is the equivalent of conscious dreaming, if that makes sense. Like, he can consciously dream and control his dreams and where he goes, and he may be the strongest dream walker in the series. But the other thing is that because he can talk to wolves, it turns his eyes yellow. So he has golden eyes. Kind of like
Chesty.
a little bit like Chesney, a little bit like Loki going on there.
Gotcha.
But the
Loki's eyes are more gray to me, so.
Oh, okay. That's fair. But yeah, definitely Chesty's. Yeah. The one thing they do say about him.
You have to mute us.
Chesty.
Hey.
Come here.
Come here.
Lay down, buddy. You're okay. But the one thing they say about him is, like, his eyes kind of glow in firelight or lamplight or, stuff like that. And because of this, being able to talk to wolves, he has heightened senses. He can literally smell people's emotions, which I think is
That's a super cool power.
Yeah. It gets interesting when he eventually gets married. Spoiler, but he does eventually get married. But yeah, that makes it interesting. But these three characters are the main focus of the entire series, and literally everything revolves around the things that they do, because they are in this universe. Time is equated to a pattern, like a woven rug. And these three, they kind of are dimples on that and pull things towards them. So when all three of them are in one place, they use it to their advantage because they know things are going to go their way. But it also means that evil is attracted to them as well. Get back. You are too close to the power strip,
Come here,
sir.
Disaster. You're okay.
How about you go lay down?
You want to go to your bed?
You cannot get the smoothie. Ashley made a smoothie before we started, and Loki is all about getting the, what is it, Berry Blast yogurt smoothie. Yeah, that's not going to happen, kid. But yeah, essentially these three characters, good things happen to them, bad things happen to them, and they are, you find out that time is cyclical. That's why it's called the Wheel of Time.
Well, yeah.
And the bad guy, the dark one, his main focus is to break the Wheel of Time and make the world and make time his. These three guys are the guys who stand in the way of that, essentially. So that's the quick and dirty part of it, but book one takes place over 1 year of their lives. People show up in their village on what's essentially May Day, like it's the first day of what's supposed to be spring and stuff like that. And then essentially all hell breaks loose and things go downhill from there. And book one ends.
Always.
Yeah, and book one ends a year later in their lives. All the things that transpire in book 1 takes place over a year. All of the events that are told in book 14 take place over 2 weeks. So that's one of the interesting things. But yeah, everything is about these gentlemen. And at the point where I am at in book 2...
Yeah, how much have you read?
I am almost done with book 2.
Oh, you're almost done.
Yes.
So I am slacking. I have made it.
It's taken me a long time to get
far
here.
in my book, and then I got.
I am that far into my book, and it's taken me a long time to get there. Reading The Wheel of Time is an undertaking. But yeah, essentially at this point, Rand is trying to do his best to stay out of the way of things, and he is a reluctant lead character. Perrin is learning how to talk to wolves full time, and because of his ability to talk to wolves, he is considered.
That would still be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I would want to talk to wolves.
Well, the problem is most of the people in the world, and especially one group of quote unquote what you would consider like inquisitors, Spanish inquisitor guys, they consider it to be an evil thing, so they're hunting him. And Matt is essentially, he's along with Rand at this point, but they are all kind of hunting a horn that is supposed to bring back dead heroes to fight. They think that when they blow that horn, all these dead heroes are going to come back, and there's going to be a big fight and a big war, and they're going to kill the Dark One.
Sounds
and
legit.
Like, end of the world type stuff.
Yeah.
Spoiler, there's 12 more books after this one, so that doesn't happen. Stuff does go down, but yeah.
Sounds like Game of Thrones. They spend 12 years telling us that winter is coming?
Yeah.
Winter comes and
and they, I will have to look it up, but they have a name for what's called the last battle.
Gotcha.
I think it's pronounced Tarmongaden. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
But they keep talking about it and talking about
let
it.
our children out. So you talk
okay.
about your book, but
Okay.
I will be back after I.
The puppies need to pee, apparently. But yes, I will take this opportunity to look up the proper pronunciation of that. So let me see if I can find it. Ah, yes. Well, this doesn't have pronunciations in here, which is unfortunate.
Is that the one I got you?
This is the Comprehensive Wheel of Time companion book, which you got this for me last year for Christmas, right?
No, it was the first Christmas we were together.
Was it? Okay.
I was such a good girlfriend. You were not a good girlfriend.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. Yes, it is Tarmon Gaiden. I don't know how would you pronounce that one? Gaidon. Okay.
You ask me as I have smoothie in my mouth.
Yeah, and that's essentially their version of Old Valerian. Is that it's like
Old Valerian?
it's like an old language, essentially the old tongue. Oh. But they spend a lot of time thinking that blowing this horn is gonna start the end of the world, and it does not. So yes.
Sorry, I got a notification about records because I like vinyl.
Yeah. So, and one of the interesting things, I will say this is one of the more interesting things about the way Robert Jordan wrote his books, is he did do a thing. Is at the beginning of every chapter, you see the symbol. Mm-hmm. If you see the symbol that is below chapter 1 there, every chapter has a symbol like that. And by the symbol, you can figure out who the chapter is going to be about. Like, for instance, Perrin, his symbol eventually becomes a wolf.
Okay.
I forget what Rand's symbol is. I can't remember what his is, but Matt's is a pair of dice.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, and the more characters that they introduce, the more that it has to go, cover and stuff like that. But book 5, Fires of Heaven, the longest book, told you about that one, is told from 45 different viewpoints. 45 different people, I believe, the things that are happening to them and what they're experiencing.
So it's like this, because...
Yeah.
I mean, at the start, we have... I gotta find it. There's a quote from Lou Reed, and I love it. "All by myself, no one to talk to. Come over here so I can talk to you." I love it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this starts off with Lou Reed saying, "We were playing together a long time ago in a $30 a month apartment, and we really didn't have any money." And it's just like, I know who Lou Reed is. If you don't, look up his career, because he had a very amazing career. But you think about it, like, we didn't have any money. We lived in a $30 a month apartment, and now it's like,
What?
you're Lou Reed.
What year would that have been?
So I'm gonna guess that it's 65, because it does, like, the prologue covers 65 to 68.
Okay.
It was around that time.
Yeah.
But
still $30
yeah.
for an apartment?
Yeah. And there are snippets from, like, a couple of, like, you don't see them a lot. You don't see them a lot, but you see some people that you recognize. Like, they do quote Andy Warhol in here, and I thought I marked the page, but apparently I didn't. They did mark, Iggy Pop, like, they interviewed him, and he literally said, "The first time I heard the Velvet Underground and Nico record was at a party on the University of Michigan campus. I just hated the sound." And you got to think about, like, that was when punk first started. So everybody's hearing this music, and it's like, what is this?
Yeah. It's new. It's different.
Yeah, it's new. It's different.
Their
not lyrics
rock.
were very unconventional too. So I think they said that, like, they didn't really talk about a lot of stuff in their music. It was just like, oh.
Yeah, it's a departure from, like, the storytelling music, like the storytelling lyrics, right?
And I mean, they were really, when you sing punk music, or when you're part of the punk movement, and I don't claim to be some big historian on the punk movement, but, like, punk is typically associated with people who don't fit in, people who don't fit the mold, people who can't find a spot. And that's exactly what they were. I mean, yeah, they did a lot of hard drugs too. Like, there was another reason I marked that page, and it was because, like, I think it was Ronnie Catrone who said, "You also have to realize we were on methadone 9 days a week. So even now, I don't know what the truth was, because when you stay up for 9 days straight, anything can happen. The paranoia is so thick you can cut it with an axe." Like, you're reading this and you're just like, how many drugs did you do? So when we make jokes about people who are, like, whose brains are so fried that they did so many drugs, like, it's not a joke.
No, it's not.
They did so many drugs.
Well, I heard a comment talking about Keith Richards when he was in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like, he looks old, and I'm like, yeah, that's because he is old to begin with. But I forget who it was made the comment, well, that's what hard drugs do for you. Apparently, in Keith Richards' case, they just preserved his body as an old man. And it's like,
and that's the honest to God truth. Like, they take a toll on you.
yeah, you can't do drugs for that long without it doing something to you.
Well, and I remember I read, I like to read a lot of biographies and nonfiction about Bob Dylan too, because folk music is, for me, folk and punk music have always kind of been my niche. But anyway.
Dylan's an icon, so
Dylan's a big icon. Yeah. But I was reading the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, and it was by a girl that he dated, and I don't remember how long they dated, but it was a very long time. Yeah. And she talked about all the drugs they did. Like, like she distinctly remembered them. Like there were a lot of details about it. So that was super interesting too.
Yeah.
But, you know, she talked about how one night, like they took mushrooms and, you know, I just like,
I see.
it's so interesting to me that like they talk about it with such ease,
Yeah.
because now it's like, if you're doing drugs, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, what's
and that's
what's
the
the hidden story
and like
there
being
stuff like that.
functional while doing it.
Yes. Being functional while doing it. Like that's a big part of this book too, is
Yeah.
they're just like, we would get high and sing at Andy Warhol's factory.
Yeah.
And Andy would be high too.
yeah.
But yeah, like they were functional.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. And I think that was one of the things that I read or heard somewhere about Jimi Hendrix, was like he was on drugs, you know, but no, it was Slash from
Okay,
Guns N'
yeah.
Roses. And they were interviewing him, and he said one time I think he was so drunk at the time that he messed up Sweet Child of Mine or something like that on stage. And it just made me think, how drunk did he have to be? Because drugs and partying was, you know, their thing. That's what they did. How drunk and how much did he have to drink to be to that point where he messes it up?
Like Sweet Child of Mine is iconic.
Exactly. You know, how many drugs are these people doing, you know, and if they're doing them so consistently, they're still able to go up there and play and sing. Like, oh.
And I mean,
okay.
drugs aren't the only thing they talk about in here. Like they really talk about like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Only
Yeah.
it's punk in this case. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they were very loose with their bodies, you know, like they
yeah.
would, and a lot of them even said too, like there were guys in there who were like, I wasn't gay, but I figured it couldn't hurt. Like I would just sleep with a guy and see what it was like. Like
Yeah.
this was a time when people were, I mean, it was the 60s. So
60s,
people
yeah.
were like exploring and trying to figure out like what they wanted, what they were like, what
Breaking
their
away
identities were.
Breaking away from the norm.
And I think that is definitely just kind of a what am I trying to say? Like a defining characteristic of the punk movement is that people didn't know where they fit in, and then suddenly this music came along and they were like, this is where I fit. Like I don't understand any of these lyrics, but like these people don't understand the lyrics they're singing either, and I think I can relate to them. So that's a big thing for me too. Like, and that's a big thing for me in general, is music has always been kind of like the place where I can find myself. And like, I listen to a lot of Taylor Swift, but I grew up listening to Dylan and Michael Jackson and stuff like that. And that was where I found myself, was just in the lyrics of those songs.
Well, that's one of the things about music, is it sometimes it's the lyrics, sometimes it's the music, and sometimes it's a combination of the two. It doesn't always have to be one of those things.
Right.
And music is almost what I would consider a universal thing, that it speaks to people, or
it brings a lot of people together from different walks of life.
It evokes emotions. It doesn't, not always good sometimes, you know, not always bad either, but you know, there's any emotions can be evoked by music, and for some reason it seems like music is like one of the universal things that can do that to anybody. I don't know that there's many other things that can do that. Like I grew, like after, you know, Dylan and Jackson and everything, like in high school, I listened to a lot of Dashboard Confessional. Yeah.
And I really did feel alone at that point in my life. Like I was just like, nobody gets me, nobody understands me. And of course, like that's a teenager thing, but it was also a very isolating experience in high school. I was bullied, I was, you know, all those other things. So talking about like, or listening to Dashboard Confessional just kind of gave me that place where I felt like I fit in. I never got to see him in concert or anything until I think it was 3.5 years ago, because it was 2017. It was late 2017. Okay. But I remember being at that show and just meeting people that like I never would have thought would like Dashboard Confessional or would love Chris Carrabba to the extent that I did.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, you know, music brings people together.
Yeah.
And it, you know, and that's a big thing with punk for me too. Like reading this is just kind of like, these were the people who brought everybody together.
Yeah, it was the group of people that didn't fit in, so they all kind of got together and said,
Because
hey,
they
we're going to
even
do
say
that.
a couple of times, like, we hate the dirty hippies. Like, they talk about that in the in the prologue.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, we didn't fit in with the hippies. We didn't fit in with, you know, they called them the straight edge. We didn't fit in with them.
Which was the norm,
Yeah,
you know.
we didn't fit in. So we created our own space where we could fit in. And I think that in and of itself is just, they had a lot of drugs and they did a lot of drugs and they had a lot of sex. But they also created a community.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure out where they fit in because they didn't feel like they fit in anywhere. So they're
exactly.
like, wait a minute. You kind of like that. I kind of like that. Why don't we just, you know, go do our own thing? Yeah. Why do we have to listen to the normal people, you know, tell us how we're supposed to act and what we're supposed to do?
And actually, I will tell you now that, like, when we first got Lucky and they called him Lucky Reed, like, I was, and I still do sometimes, I call him Lucky Lou Reed. Like, you know, Lou Reed was just a...
Who is outside running around at the moment.
I was going to say, is he digging? Because that would be...
No, but it looks like Chesty is sitting on the step supervising whatever's going on outside.
He's got to keep an eye on his kid.
Yeah. Loki's probably, at this point, chewing on a stick.
Well, yeah.
So, you know.
He's got things to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, that's... You think about... I'll ask you, like, what song for you was, like, a defining moment for you?
Defining moment.
Or a defining song for you, or like one that you can still, like, you listen to it and you can go back to that point where you were like, okay, this is where I fit, or this is where I belong, or you know, something along those lines.
It was probably the song Ravage Ritual by Zao, which is definitely not your cup of tea. Not a whole lot of people's cup of tea.
So I will admit, like, I don't listen to the same music you do.
No.
But I read the lyrics and I'm like, this is really good. Like, you posted something the other day and it was, I mean, we were, you know, we talk about all the division in this country and everything else too, but you posted that and I was like, this is what people need to read. I mean, maybe they can't stand to hear it, but at least reading it.
It's... For me, it has always been that, yes, there are going to be people out there that tell you that the music style and the way the music is presented and the way the lyrics are sung are quote-unquote evil, quote-unquote demonic. For me, it's more what the lyrics say than how it sounds being presented.
Right.
Because Ravage Ritual starts off with the guy talking, and he's just talking, and it's supposed to be from the point of view of an angel, and he's talking about
I'm listening to you.
He's talking about he's there and he witnesses Satan fall from heaven.
Yeah.
And then it goes right into a musically and lyrically savage song. And that was one of the first albums that I ever got that was quote unquote screamo music. Like, you had to read the lyrics or you didn't know what they were saying unless you've listened to that type of music for a very long time. Then you can kind of figure it out and realize what they're saying. But that was at the point where I heard that song and, oh, I like this music. Why do I like this type of music? And I think for me is because of how much emotion they put into actually singing the lyrics. That's part of it for me. I don't know when that song came out. Possibly when I was in high school. I can't remember because I don't think I ever bought that one on CD. I can't remember if I have. I still have my CDs, but I don't know if I have that one on CD. I know I have it on my phone now on iTunes. But
Thank you,
yeah,
Apple.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Who is not giving us a sponsorship.
That's
this
not,
is not an ad.
That's not a plug. Not a plug. But yeah, and I think for me it was the emotion of the music and the emotion of the song.
Yeah.
But then the older I got, the more I looked at the lyrics side of it. And like that song you mentioned where I post the lyrics of it, it's the same style of music, same type of music. But then you read the lyrics and you're like, oh, if this song doesn't knock you down a few pegs when you listen, read it, goodness. And, music has always been able to do that. And I would say it was right around the time I graduated high school, though, is when that kind of, I guess you quote unquote grow up, which is a trap. We all know that growing up is a trap. Stay young, kids.
Naps all day.
And also stay off drugs. We may be talking about that, but stay off drugs. But also, like, I was starting to not have to have my music censored and pre-approved by my parents either. So, I was able to find what I wanted to listen to. And for whatever reason, hardcore is my thing. Yeah. Now, however, I did listen to Johnny Cash on the way up to Pennsylvania today. So, I still do like that type of stuff.
But for you, that song kind of defined it for you.
Yes, that was kind of like, oh, hey, there's music out there that actually speaks to me, that like evokes an emotion. Yeah.
And for this generation here, they didn't have anything like that. So they just went, we're going to make our own.
Yeah. There's a whole group of people that are like, I don't like any of this music that's coming out right now. Well, maybe let's find out what we like and make it ourselves. Yeah.
And I think it's just it's so important. Like the song for me is Vindicated by Dashboard Confessional. Like I loved Hands Down, and for a really long time, that was like the song that kind of defined me. Yeah. And it's a love story and everything like that. But you listen to this and you're just like, this is what I want from life. I want somebody who, sings about the day they met me, or sings about the first date that I had with them. But then, I heard Vindicated and I was just like, this is it. Like, this is where I fit. Like, I'm vindicated. I'm selfish. I'm right. I'm wrong. I'm flawed. Yeah. Stuff like that. And you're just listening to it and you're like, this is somebody who gets me now. Like, I haven't had that. And I just wonder what it was like at that point for not just the people in the books or in the book, but the people who listened to them, and what it felt like when they first heard it. And they were just like, this is what I needed. This is my sound. This is my spot.
Yeah. And those people are figuring out, oh, wait, there's a whole group of people out there that feel the same way I do, and they're willing to make music about it. Maybe I should break away from the norm too and find friends like that.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
I mean, I don't condone drugs, no drugs, but it's, it's drugs and all the, not awful, but, not good things they did.
Yeah.
They found a home. They found a home with Andy Warhol, who I told you today, like, I didn't realize he got shot.
No, I didn't either.
Neither of us knew that.
Yeah. I didn't know he was involved in this, though.
Oh, I knew I knew he was involved.
I always, every time I pictured Andy Warhol, I always pictured him as some sort of weird kook penned up in his art gallery painting
Which
stuff.
I think is what happened after he got shot, because like after that he was just kind of like, I'm too exposed here. Like he didn't want to expose himself to all this stuff that could happen,
which
like
is
getting
fair.
shot.
Yeah. But like people going there to have concerts.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I had no clue about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think can we also talk about the fact that you have given Chris Carrabba a hug?
Yeah. Highlight of my life.
The best part
As
of
soon
that,
as COVID's over,
the best,
more hugs will happen.
the best part of that is we do the meet and greet, and at the time I had a longer beard, and I went first and got up there and met him, and he's like, "Nice beard, man." I was, "Well, thanks," and put my arm around him and get my picture taken and everything. And then you go up there and get your picture taken. You're like, "Can I give you a hug?" "Oh, absolutely." And you're like, "Yes." Like life-defining moment.
It really was, because for me, that was how, I don't even remember how old I was at the time, but
When was that?
at the very least, it was 15, 16 years of listening to these words and lyrics and everything else, and just being like, oh my God, I get to meet the person who defined my adolescence. I mean,
put all that stuff on paper and sang about it, and I've been listening to it for that long. Yeah.
And I still remember, like, of course, Vindicated is a big, big song for me. But, the first time I saw Dashboard Confessional in concert, he sang new songs that he was writing, and he sang We Fight. And I have goosebumps now.
Yeah.
Like, hearing that song for the first time, I was just like, this is why I love him, because you have a lot of feelings. And, of course, like, it's a super, like, right now is a super weird time. Super weird time.
Yeah.
And it can get rough, and it can get, lonely. And I don't say that because, you're not helpful, because you are. But there are times where I've just felt like, oh my God, I'm alone. Like, what's going to happen? Like, you worry.
Yeah. Everybody
but
worries.
I still, like,
some point,
if or when We Fight comes on the iPod, I'm just like,
yeah,
we fight our way in. We fight our way out. Like, this is, we never learn to keep our voices down. Stuff like that, you just...
It's okay. It's on a shock mount.
Yeah.
So, that helps.
I just want to make sure I'm not, like, moving it toward here. Can I speak directly? Anyway, so...
do you want to summarize that chapter while I go let
the
boys in?
I feel like I already have...
The puppies need left in. So.
But I will summarize it, as best as I can. Basically, it really is just the start of the punk movement. And I cannot say enough good things about this book in general, but definitely the prologue is just the fact that you're reading this and you're like, hey, I've kind of been in that situation too, or hey, I've kind of been, feeling like I didn't fit in. And a lot of these people really admit that, like, we didn't fit in here, we didn't fit in there. Lou Reed, I talk about Lou Reed a lot because he really was, and everybody admits it in here, he was the Velvet Underground. And of course they didn't do as well because they weren't as well known. But he was the Velvet Underground, and he admits that,
I don't want to run over your toes.
He was just a poor kid who had a $30 a month apartment, and he just wanted to sing. Like,
that still amazes me.
And I'm also really amazed in here because they do talk about how Andy Warhol really didn't want anything to do with the business side of things, but he wanted to be attached to it. He wanted to be attached to the music. So, like, he found Lou Reed and John Cale and everybody else.
Yeah.
Let them perform at his club, and so he was popular by association. And of course, Andy Warhol didn't need that because he was already popular. But,
right, yeah.
Everybody... The best way I can summarize this is, like, you're reading this and you're just like, oh, these are the misfits that started it all. And I'm just like, these are and that's the kind of story I like anyway. It's just like the misfits coming out on top. And, like, if you look now, the Ramones come into play in here too. I'm really excited for that chapter.
Yeah.
But, it started the Ramones. It started, Joan Jett and everybody else too. And it's just...
I think that part of the reason he wanted to be involved in that is he was an artist. Mm-hmm. So, like, not being understood by a great portion of the population is kind of a thing for artists.
Yeah.
Especially him. So, like, he sees people who are not afraid to, AKA, fly their freak flag, kind of deal. And he's like, oh, well, these people are doing what they want. I want to get in on that because they don't really care that they don't fit in. They're making this own thing for themselves. And he kind of, as an artist, is okay with that because that's that's your thing as an artist, is you find what you like, what you can do, and you fit in, or not fit in,
Yeah.
kind of deal. So, yeah, I can see him wanting to be part of that, though.
Yeah. And I think I didn't like mark the page, but I'm reading it now and I'm just smiling because John Cale says, like, the first time Lou, and anytime I say Lou, unless I note otherwise, it's Lou Reed. And he says, the first time Lou played Heroin for me, it totally knocked me out. The words and music were so raunchy and devastating. What's more, Lou's songs fit perfectly with my concept of music. And it's just, I've been there.
Yeah.
You're listening to a song and you're just like, this is my concept of music. So like, we've all been there, and I think that's a big thing that I like about this book too, is not necessarily everything, because I've never done methadone or amphetamines or anything like that. I've never done any of that, but there are times where I've read something in this book and I'm like, hey, I can relate to that. And I think that's a big thing for me, is like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh, this is devastating and soul crushing, but at the same time, like, that's my kind of music. So
yeah, and I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's part of the whole growing up process too, is finding that, and I think that's part of the reason that the punk movement started, was these people were told that they had to think a certain way, had to do things a certain way for so long, and then they're like, screw this, I don't like any of this. And they finally got old enough and let's face it, ballsy enough to do something about it,
right.
Yeah, and they decided to break the status quo, I guess, if you want to say it that way. All right, so for next time, how much are you going to read?
I am going to try and read at least like 2 more chapters.
Okay.
I didn't have like my highlighter or my pen or anything, so this coming week I will have both my highlighter and my pen, so I can mark all the super interesting stuff in this book. Are you going to finish your book? Because I feel like you're getting there.
At the moment, I need to start chapter 44. So what I think I'm going to do is read 2 chapters as well. I'll read chapter 44 and 45 because there are...
Yeah, how many more chapters do you have to go?
48, 49... Well, chapter 50 is
just after.
There is... Yes, so chapter 50 is, 2 pages long here? And part of it's a prophecy, so it's not really... But yeah, there's 50 chapters, so I have 7 chapters to read, including chapter 44. Cool. So I'll read 2 chapters, because that is part of the problem with Wheel of Time. There is a lot that happens, and unfortunately, you do need a lot of context. We're jumping in at book 2 of the series, and there's a whole lot of stuff that sets up book 2, and I'm at the end of book 2. But what I will mention is that after I complete book 2, I'm not going to continue with book 3. I'm going to do the Chronicles of Narnia, like we talked about. That's right. You told me about that. Yep. Yeah. And I am going to read those in chronological order, which is not the order that he wrote them. He wrote them in a different order. And I think Star Wars. Yeah. Well, and I think they were originally published in obviously the order that he wrote them as well, which is not chronological. And I don't know if there's any debate. I think there was some debate with his estate about, should it continue to be published in the order he wrote it, or should it continue to be published in chronological order? I vaguely remember there being like a letter that he wrote about him wanting it to be that way, and that stuff like that. But I have had the Chronicles of Narnia read to me twice, and I have read the series twice. Yeah. But I have never done it chronologically. So I'm looking forward to that, because... Hang on one second. This is the entirety of all 7 books, which is really the equivalent of essentially 2 Wheel of Time books.
Gotcha. Yeah.
This isn't even one of the biggest books either. So, but all 7 books of his, and yes, they are actually in chronological order here, it looks like.
Okay.
So, yeah. I bought this one time when we were out together at a bookstore, I think.
It might have been when we went to Charleston.
It might have been.
Thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I had never had my own set of books, so once I'm done with book 2, I will move.
Which is soon. So.
Yes, yeah. The problem is reading. If you plan to read the entire Wheel of Time series, be prepared for a time commitment, because 14 books at that length it takes a long time.
You getting hungry?
Puppies are getting
The children
hungry.
are getting
The children
hungry.
are getting restless and getting hungry. But yeah. So
Hey, chaos.
for next time, do you want to do it at 4 p.m.?
Yes, let's
4
do 4 p.m. on
East-
Sundays.
Okay.
Barring, of course, I don't have to work or
Right.
whatever.
Well, that's
I
kind of
haven't pulled another all-nighter.
the reason we had to do it at 3 today, is because we are both tired. Yeah. So, yeah. And we have off work tomorrow.
We do.
We both have off work tomorrow.
There's a very good chance I'm going to read more than 2 chapters, but for our discussion next week, I will reserve it for 2 chapters.
Okay.
Because it's a lot. It's a lot
Yeah.
to go through, because I think they actually go to... I'm going to look at my glossary real quick.
Well, yeah, you said it starts
They go from like 68 to 92.
oh goodness.
Yeah, like there's they talk about the Ramones. They talk about
Right.
the Clash. They talk
Yeah,
So
how many books have been written about the Ramones alone,
yeah.
For me,
Which now makes me want to listen to I Want to Be Sedated. So there's a
Right.
very good chance
Well-
we're going to go out there and I'm going to tell Alexa
well,
to-
for me, the punk movement like the Ramones were what I considered the punk sound, the punk music.
I get it.
I don't know a lot about punk music, but whenever somebody mentions it, the Ramones are who I always think of. And I Want to Be Sedated
Yeah.
is the song that I always associate with that type of thing. Yeah.
No. Okay.
So,
You're okay.
yeah. So 4 p.m.
4 p.m. next Sunday.
Yes.
Um,
I'll read 2 chapters. You
we
read
will
2 chapters.
We will make a valiant attempt to
yeah.
get the puppies to
Yeah.
calm it down a little bit.
Well,
They're super restless. They've had a weird weekend too, because I worked 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I got home, like he said, about
7:15 this
7:15,
morning,
and I passed out and slept until 12:30. So they've had a weird night too. They are very much like, "Where's mom?
Yeah.
What you doing, mom? Can I sit with you, mom? Mom,
Yeah.
mom." So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if are you gonna read tomorrow? Yeah. Probably on your day.
I'm gonna
off?
read
Okay.
tomorrow.
I think I will probably stream
Okay.
at some point. So you'll get to see me again tomorrow, unless
I
I can
might pop in and
talk you into maybe doing some Sims tomorrow at some point. So somebody did something there, but I can't.
somebody followed you.
Is that a follow or
Yeah,
is
that was a follow.
Was that a subscription? Yeah. Ranger.
Shuriken?
Shuriken.
Shuriken.
No, Shuriken.
Shuriken.
I can't.
Well, thank you.
It's a Japanese weapon. I always mispronounce that one. Thank you for the follow. I don't know why.
It popped up in the thing on the right-hand side.
But it should have showed up on the stream. It should have
That's
showed
fine.
up over here. I don't know why it didn't.
You can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. But yeah, I don't know what time it'll be tomorrow.
That's fine.
Because, let's face it,
Are you going
we're
to play
we're
Lotro?
sleeping
What
in.
are we doing tomorrow?
I think I'm going to do Lotro.
Okay.
Because I still do have stuff that I need to clean out of my quest log.
I might hop on and do some
Yeah.
Sims.
Yeah. Okay. see if I can talk her into playing some Sims tomorrow. So, you know. Okay.
The smoothie's really good.
Oh, if you can hear that, that means we need to go feed the puppies.
Yeah.
So we will.
The errant howl of Loki.
So we will be back next week.
And in case you don't know, we have 3 dogs. We have Ira, Chesty, and Loki.
So if we say our children, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
No actual.
Because
Human
children
children.
are a lot.
Yeah. We have fur babies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all big love bugs. So there's that. And that is why you probably saw them, because they don't understand what we're doing back here and they just want to be with us. But yeah, we'll be back next week with Book Club, 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Eastern Time.
And you'll post reminders throughout the week too.
Yep. And
I'll do it too. But yeah.
And I am going to be streaming tomorrow.
And Wednesday?
Yes, and I'm still planning to stream Wednesday night. So
I will be at work.
Yay! Oh my. Which is another reason we were anticipating doing this next week instead, because of your work schedule.
My work schedule is
jacked up. And my prior commitments this morning. But we're probably gonna hop off here. Maybe read a little bit tonight. Maybe. But we are passing out early and waking up late.
And eating Chipotle for dinner.
And Chipotle, yes.
Because I started a new diet, but I can still have Chipotle with my diet.
And that's kind of the whole fire behind this whole thing too, is part of your diet and part of the lifestyle thing is to read, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the diet, whatever, the lifestyle plan or whatever calls for nonfiction. But at the same time, I'm just like, I feel like reading in general is just good.
Yeah,
so.
it's
I
good.
figured I'd start with nonfiction just because I've had this book for like 3 years now. Like I actually bought it. I had it. I read it in college. Don't know where that copy went. Bought it again, and I've had it for like 3 to 6 months now. And I'm like, I need to read this.
Well, I bought these. This would be over 2 years ago by now.
Yeah.
It's still in the plastic, by the way. So, there's that. I haven't gotten to those. But
Anyway,
Next week, 4 p.m.
Be there,
Eastern.
be square.
Yeah. If you want to bring coffee, bring coffee.
Yes. I may bring coffee next week.
And I'll remind people tomorrow and on Wednesday about it. So, yeah.
Cool.
All right. Do you want to say the sign off? Do you have anything that you want to end it with? Is there a phrase or is there a saying or anything that you want to end it with? Because I sign off of, when I'm streaming with my thing. Do you want to do it for book club?
Sure.
Okay.
Stay rock and roll, kids.